from Twitter to the wall.
Welcome back to the European LCS. Before we get into our next game, we want to shed some light on the pro scene that's in full swing over in South America. Tune in this Sunday at 7 p.m. Central European Time to see Brazil's 2 World Championship contenders, Kaboom Esports and Pain Gaming, go head-to-head in the CB LOL Game of the Week. Definitely be looking out for that one. But turning to the match at hand here, also a pretty big game. G2 Esports and H2K are making their final adjustments on stage to go into that match. Let's start by taking a look at the lineup for G2 Esports with Kikis in the top lane, then Trick, Perks, Emperor at AD carry, Hybrid, and their coach Youngbuck. They are the only undefeated team left here in the European LCS, but with the footnote that the teams that they have played have now a combined record of 1-8. So we need to keep that in consideration.
Hey, I mean, we can't really fault G2 for that because they've just been winning the games.
It's their fault for winning.
Yeah, again, why would you win against these teams? I think we see good stuff from G2, especially if we look at just each individual player. I think Kikis is the only one where you say, okay, this guy is not like mechanically fantastic, but everyone else is. Hybrid on support as well is playing super well. So they have super good team fights. I personally think we see some problems though when it comes to shot calling and overall macro play.
Yeah, I mean, I think they might be kind of in the same situation with Rocket, where they are very good early game because they have the individual strength. But once they go into the mid game and go into the late game, they might struggle a little bit, maybe in terms of communication, since they have 2 Koreans after all, or just synergy in general. But I think with time, they will be a very strong team. And it just feels like they're all on the same page when you're playing against them, because they're very decisive in what they do. So with time, they might be able to change up things and still have that decisiveness.
And they're already winning.
Yeah, I like
they're already winning.
The no hesitation that they have. I still think they abuse Tom Kench top lane a bit much. I want to see more games without the Tom Kench top lane.
They won the last game.
Hey, they did.
They're not allowed to win. They're not allowed to
Don't
pick
hate on Tom
Hey,
Kench,
a lot of restrictions here on G2. But no, honestly, they surprised me. Coming into the season, we were like, would we rank them, barely at the bottom, maybe middle of the pack? And honestly surprised. And I like their bot lane duo. I think that has a really high skill ceiling, and I don't think they're even close to discovering that ceiling yet, because both players just mechanically good. They seem to have the right attitude. And more importantly, whenever you meet them, they're always in packs of 3 or 4 backstage together. And that is something you don't really see, obviously.
Hunting.
Like a pack of wolves.
Pack of wolves? Not really, but it means the team gets along, and it's really important that you have the out-of-team synergy, because that translates later on into the game.
And we've seen a lot of good things from H2K as well, and that will be a very big test for G2 coming into. Let's take a look at that lineup for H2K. Oduwamne, Jankos, Ryu, Forgiven, Vander, and their coach, Prolly. Yesterday, of course, you got some insight into them, and I heard you say before you used H2K's strategy against them to win that game. So is that their weakness then?
Yeah, I mean, basically what happened in week 1 to us was that we weren't prepared enough to face a lane swap scenario. Therefore, when we played it against Vitality, we ended up putting ourselves in a spot where we forced it 2v2 really hard, and it just costed us the game. Basically, it was really bad. But I think in the previous week, we just ended up watching H2K because they were, after all, the best team in lane swaps in week 1. So we just ended up watching what they were doing and trying to copy it, I guess, in a way, and maybe even strengthen it. And then we kind of just used it against them yesterday, and I felt like we actually had the tempo control in that game, even though they're really good at doing it. So I was kind of proud that we made those improvements over a week. Nevertheless, they are very, very strong on the strategical base, H2K, and I feel like if Gamers 2 perhaps get caught in that game, it might be tough for them because they're just so much about team fighting.
It was really close yesterday. I think if at any given point H2K would have just cemented their vision, so they had really good vision control. But you probably watched the VOD, in your jungle, the 3 wards. I think if they kept rewarding that instead of waiting for it to go dark and then trying to get inside and but then just get countered, that would have been the key to winning the game. And I think G2 as a team may struggle by keeping all those windows really closed, especially the way Febiven for you guys kept you guys in the game with the side lane pressure. That was just fantastic, and I'm not sure if H2K plays a similar style, if G2 can do
Well, we'll find out right now. I'm going to cut you off.
Going to run them around.
Defecio, it's time for the game.
The plays are ready. Let's go.
Thanks, Shocks. And, I can understand them not wanting to stop talking about this one because this is such an exciting matchup. It'll be a huge test for G2 Esports. 3-0, but they have not faced a team like H2K yet.
Oh, they haven't yet. But have they prepared to face a team like H2K? As the mood goes very dark here as we get prepared to go into Champions Select. I know there's a
I don't know if they are not,
here
but
as well.
Yeah, this is going to be really exciting to see if the somewhat disorganized shot calling we saw from this G2 team can triumph over an H2K that had a, frankly, heartbreaking loss.
And I think first thing for me, if I'm going up against H2K, in my mind, I'm like, they played 3 games of Corki. They've done this siege composition where they go mid lane and just siege, ban Corki. Just see what Forgiven has next. I'm not in any way speaking about his champion pool. I'm just saying they've played 3 games of it. Get rid of it. Don't let them play it at all. See what you can do. Aha! And they have.
There it goes.
Nice. Okay, I like it. Good start for G2. Let's see what H2K reply with.
Krepa will be a little happy too as the Tahm Kench is taken off the board. The Poppy and Kalista also banned in this game. And then the Elise. These are going very quickly, actually. The teams have clearly done their homework ahead of time to decide what they want to get rid of.
So Elise banned away from Jankos, another champion that they've been playing. I believe did they play it yesterday? Yeah, they had 1 game of it yesterday.
The GP.
GP goes as the 6th ban, which leaves us with the Lulu.
And that one makes it through. It's immediately picked up. The flex across the board.
So where does this go is the question. Perks, I believe he played, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, he played it week 1. And I was thinking, it was a game I casted with Quickshot, and I was thinking, I don't know, do they have the damage here? They answered that by having Trick on the Graves. Emperor had a great job as well. Likely to be the same kind of setup. Graves is available. Does Jankos pick that up for himself here? Because otherwise you know Trick is going to get it on the 2nd rotation.
Very true. We'll have to see what Jankos does value. Plenty of junglers still available on the board. The Rek'Sai is up. Jankos' favorite, Lee Sin. But this Graves, there's a reason it has been picked so frequently lately. And, you know, we could say maybe it could go to the top lane. We have seen that, but I think it's more likely to fall into Jankos' hands.
Yeah, I think so. Odoamne might pick up the top lane if they want to pick up a Kindred here. First Lucian of the week, actually.
Of course,
comes
Forgiven.
up here. For Forgiven, I like it. It's another strong laning pick. They can establish the dominance. Still has the potential to push towers fairly quickly as well. I'm expecting Trick to maybe look at either a Rek'Sai or the likes of the Kindred in the jungle, which is available.
It's Trick and then 2G.
Oh, dear. No.
But wait for that one. He's not going to lock the Udyr, guys.
Too
okay.
easy. Too easy.
Too simple.
Too easy.
We'll see what they end up answering with. But yeah, a lot of explosive potential out of H2K to start things off, and G2 is taking their time on the next rotation. It went very quickly. And oh my god, it is!
What? Whoa, hang on,
yes,
hang on. Whoa,
we have an Udyr.
Whoa. We are in a meta where there's a whole lot of poke and a lot of slows. I guess they got a Lulu. They have a Lulu to speed him up. That's kind of a curveball here.
I like it. You know, by the way, this may not be a jungle pick. Kikis has been very outspoken about how he plays everything.
I really hope that's not.
And we did see, if I recall correctly, we saw him last year. It was in the jungle.
Oh, yeah, it was Flash Bear Slap.
Maybe he'll do it in the top lane.
This has thrown me for a loop because, like, the junglers that we've had a lot of is the Lee Sin, we've had a lot of the Graves, the Rek'Sai.
Yeah.
You know, junglers that offer more than early game and a bit of fast clear. Udyr right now is not in that kind of spot where you have the global presence at all that Rek'Sai has. The pick potential that Elise brings, obviously Elise was banned in this setup. I'm so looking forward to seeing how this opens up.
Oh yeah, this is going to be exciting. G2 clearly was hiding something in their back pocket to take to play against this H2K squad. They do take the Lissandra flexible for Odoamne or Ryu. As G2 cycles through some frankly interesting AD carries. Emperor, we have seen him have a monster 3 games so far. Will it be number 4? We haven't seen some of these AD carries for a while here in Europe.
I'm looking at what H2K do with their last pick. They've got the flex either for top or mid, or jungle. They could Lissandra mid, Graves top, and pick a different jungle pick here. If they pick anything that can kite this Udyr, they'll do well, but one of the big champions that would be able to kite would be that blue build Ezreal, and that is no longer available. So this leaves us with Lulu top lane, Zed in the mid lane, Ezreal AD carry with Udyr in the jungle for Drake.
Oh yes. Not a sentence you probably thought you were going to say today at breakfast, Stress. But what does H2K answer with in their very last pick of the game? They've still got that flexibility. Do they want to go something tankier? They've got the Alistar already, but will that be enough?
Well, at this point, you already know that you have an okay matchup mid lane if you want the Lissandra. Just ult yourself, you'll get a Zhonya's Hourglass anyway, so you know that Perks won't be able to all-in you. Do you go for a top lane matchup now against the Lulu? Pick something that can carry? We've got the likes of Fiora open. Yeah, that is true. That matchup, as it opens up, is one that Fiora starts to run away with? Isn't so easy in the beginning, or do you pick something with the global presence?
It looks like the latter will be the option as the timer ticks down. The Shen is taken. Should be going to Otoamne, which means Ryu will get his hands on that Lissandra as they continue to shuffle around. There we go. Well, okay, there we go. That makes more sense.
Well, as much sense as this.
I'm
this
already
champion select
completely
can
thrown
make.
by this G2
Well,
pick, so
I mean,
yeah.
The one thing that really would hold Trick normally back would be getting kited. Lissandra will be able to lock him down and run away pretty effectively.
Well, they've also got the Shen to, even if he gets on top of somebody,
land
it will
that
be
taunt.
hard to finish someone off and he can get the taunt off. So I think Trick is going to have his work cut out for him this game.
I'm really interested to see what Trick's prepped on this. This isn't the kind of pick you play without a game plan in mind. I wonder what kind of cheese we're going to have coming out from G2.
To quote a coach no longer in Europe, it better be some really good Gouda.
It had better be some really good Gouda.
You do it a little bit more correct than me.
I honestly haven't seen Ude on 6.1 or even since preseason in general.
Yeah.
Just because of how difficult it can be to get a target and stick on them. They have got the whimsy from the Lulu. They've got a lot of, that ability to stick on people with the Braum, with the Ezreal. Can they get it?
Well, we will have to see as the game gets underway. But you at home, we want to hear from you if you think G2 with their Udyr in the jungle can pull out a victory and make it 4-0 in 2 weeks, or will H2K pick up another on the board? You guys know the hashtags. I'm not even going to tell you. But get hyped for our last game of the week here in Europe. G2 Esports and H2K starting off.
I can't believe it, Pyro. It's happened.
I can't believe it's not Kindred.
Oh no!
Completely through the picks and bans.
Oh yes, he's using the
not
great
Udyr.
skin as well. I
Excellent.
love this skin.
Oh, this is going to be a great game.
It's the easiest four-person cosplay known to man. I love it. We in London in Worlds, we had some people there in onesies. I love this.
With some fantastic cosplay.
Well, I mean, if G2 are going to remain undefeated, you may as well do it with style.
Wait a minute,
against sort of the top teams.
G2 Trick. Are you sure they didn't mysteriously
Just
pick
gonna
up the
look
NA streamer?
I mean, I've already gone to that well on that joke.
Yeah,
all right, it's all right.
It's too easy. All right.
Well,
Well, it's going to start out a little bit more normal as we see the deep wards coming in, prompting for the lane swap. One key difference, though, is Kikis is already hung out in the river brush up top side. And if he doesn't move, if he doesn't get spotted, he might have to. H2K back away, and Kikis gets out without being seen. Stealthy Lulu.
So, perhaps for some viewers that weren't watching LCS last year, let's preemptively set up the last Udyr cheese we saw, which was Kikis on the Unicorns of Love, when he started red buff and instantly went to lane. Flashes in with bear stance, hits him, and manages to get a kill.
And thus the infamous Flash Bear Slap was born.
Flash Bear Slap. He's also running Strength of the Ages. So we'll have that increased health. But man, that's I guess he's not going for that all-in damage. But
See if they use it to set up that CC they need. They do have the Lulu. Be able to make someone a lot bigger than they typically are once these fights get underway. I am curious to see how they utilize these tools they've got in their box, but
Stealth Cow. Stealth Cow is here. Oh my god, how much is he going to get done?
Right, and that rush. He stopped this and knocked Trick out of his element, or out of his turtle stance.
Oh, you revealed.
I saw Kikis instead with Pulverize.
That was a little less, of a crescendo than I thought that could have been. If he went in, just like gets the knockup and the red buff, but good on Kikis to check.
Yeah. It's the smart thing to do.
It is. Also, now that they got the read on red buff, that should basically tell everybody don't overextend. We are in a lane swap, so it's not like there's going to be that situation. Ryu has the claw to get himself away. Lissandra's just one of those laners that very, very safe in this early game. You try ganking her, she claws away, she has the flash.
Overall, it'll be a fairly safe start, too, considering it. We're heading ourselves for a 4v0, or at least a 3v0, as Jankos continues to own the bottom side of the jungle. He's not finished with his clear just yet. That all too familiar, uncontested, safe start push will commence as Kikis goes up to the top side to help that effort out.
So you know what? Ooh, wow, Ryu getting taken low.
never mind
He's
about
fine.
safe.
He's fine. He's fine. I was jumping way further later in the game where there's death mark available. We're only at level 3.
He could have popped the ignite, but he didn't have enough to keep following him.
Ryu at that point was way out of it. So you know, H2K keep running these kind of compositions that I really like. A lot of side lane control. With the double teleports, with the Lissandra for the wave play, the ability to take up a lot of time, and now Perks, well, the option he's going to take is just running out topside. Did have Trick around as well, so gets himself away.
Ryu still sticking around, low on mana, but he's able to avoid the damage. Jankos was there at his back, but he's already back to base. Tower will fall, one more hit will do it, and Kikis absorbs the gold for that. Meanwhile, Odo and Forgiven split it on their end. We might actually see the two teams duking it out. Trick up at the top side, able to clear through the jungle that he now owns, as the map always splits that way instead of the typical way. Horizontal and vertical.
Oh man,
My dimensions are already off.
That's frustrating to deal with for Ryu. As soon as that shadow comes forward, he gets hit, and the shurikens come out. You can see just how much damage Perks is able to output in that kind of situation. And Perks not even getting to that level 6. But Ryu is waiting for the later part of this game, when he has his Zhonya's, when he has his ultimate available, just to kind of weather that storm. He's only a couple of CS down himself right now. Jungle matchup hasn't really shown us anything because of the lane swap right now. Now you can see H2K have brought their duo lane up to the top side. Same has happened on the bottom side now for G2, so the duo lanes are looking to push in and hold this game's pace at relatively the same speed.
Yeah. Question is, does this help G2 more than it helps H2K? They've already amassed a slight gold lead here. Well, I say slight, it's about 600, 500 rather, but that's pretty significant at 5 minutes into the game. And they will answer on the tower just about at the same moment. They buy themselves even more time for Emperor on this Ezreal to start scaling up in that all-too-popular tier build.
So for G2 right now, they're still in a position where they're waiting. This is very early on in the game. Perks isn't level 6, they can't look to skirmish, but that's what G2 are going to look for a little bit later. When H2K are over in the side lane, see if you can pick off one of the stragglers from the main pack, the 3 that'll be sitting in the middle lane. If you land an Iceborne Gauntlet hit from the Ezreal queue, you can maybe follow up with Perks. From then, Kikis can either come into the fight, you know, stay off in a side lane himself. So G2 are looking for that kind of skirmish potential. H2K are looking to just slow down any side lane pushes that G2 want to do, and then H2K can take the fight from there. But still, it's going to depend on whether Perks can find an angle into fights. But Trick seems to have found himself an angle on the Dragon fairly early on. Isn't really taking too much damage. Ryu's still only level 5.
Perks at 6, does take 2 tower shots, so he's not going to be able to easily go any farther as if he wanted to go onto the second tier turret in the first place. Ryu just hit 6, has his Frozen Tomb available. Hybrid and Trick are doubling up, should be able to take out this dragon. No problem.
This is taking Trick far longer than he thought it would have, just because of his mana. He's like, I can't dance. I want to dance with this dragon. Unfortunately, he's no George R.R. Martin. I messed it up. It was so close.
I will give you a golf clap for the effort.
So close.
But what I am really bummed about, though, in this is that we didn't get to see Forgiven face off against Emperor yet, and it won't likely happen until we get to these crazy fights. And Lucian being this lane bullier and fast pusher, obviously a very different type of AD carry than Emperor's Ezreal, so a different match of the styles. I was really looking forward to a duel.
Yeah, I don't think we were ever going to get that, to be honest. I don't think Jankos... The thing is, like, for Trick, he has to pick really difficult fights against Jankos. He either finds Jankos in the middle of a lane and can stick on him, or Trick just never fights him because he doesn't want to fight next to a wall and get blown up. It's that simple, because he just pops the smoke screen for Jankos and runs away. And that's all Jankos has to do to avoid that.
Well, we at least get to see normal lanes after all the towers are said and done, so with 2-2, of course, traded back across the way. Jankos is heading down towards the bottom side, but he is pinged out. And in hot pursuit is Trick, who is also spotted by the brush ward. Turns his Phoenix stance right around. Perks might actually look to follow him. And Ryu is also right behind there, but Odo took some free farm up in the top and not free any longer as he finds Kikis and taunts right onto him, but he's at a level disadvantage for the time being.
It's fine though, because Odo popped his Feint, the shield early on, so soaks so much of the damage from Kikis. Problem is now, Kikis turns that back around when they're standing just in this lane against each other. So Odo gets a good trade, now is ending up getting out-traded just as he hits the level cap. Now Kikis can stick on top of him. So Odo not able to stay at the high health he was at the beginning of that trade.
Still shouldn't be in too much danger of getting zeroed out by this blue. Kikis just trying to keep the pressure up topside and make sure that Odo has to respond. Ryu, meanwhile, takes a few Shadow Shurikens courtesy of Perks. Noms his biscuit to keep himself healthy, and Ryu shouldn't have too much trouble staying safe, as we said before, but there have been a couple of close calls that he's immediately said nope and bailed out of.
Yeah, he's basically...
he does know how to avoid Zeds most of the time.
So, Perks crosses over a pink ward. Does he check that bush on the way back? No. Okay, so for anybody in solo queue, that bush hardly ever gets checked. Just like that. Even happens at LCS. That's a great pink ward spot. Starts getting checked more often now.
Oh, true shot too.
Yep,
Skip
so
thought he was very safe there, but he took a big chunk of damage from it.
I think, however, Kikis is about to clear through. So, yeah, Kikis even goes back for it.
There we go.
So, if ever you're passing through that bush, just clip in. I know sometimes it doesn't path you through the bush.
There are a lot of pink wards actually in this area. 2 more in River Brushes for H2K. And Kikis will be going on a full tour. Summoner's Rift to take care of these right now. Meanwhile, unopposed farm for Emperor in the bot side.
Right, but it's H2K that are going to try and punish that because they've moved Forgiven to the middle lane. If they bring Ryu and Jankos here and stack 4 people, it forces a response. True Shot Barrage still not available for a while now for Emperor. It's about 10 to 15 seconds on that. They could have looked to push mid lane. Problem is, Perks was still too healthy with the blue buff. Extra cooldown reduction just clears out that minion wave time and time again. So it's something H2K were looking for, but couldn't quite get in position for in the right time. Forgiven goes back bottom.
Trick up to keep these wards clean as well, for the most part, actually. The Raptor buff expires on him. Perks keeping the wave defended. It really has been... It's not the slowest of starts we've seen, for sure, but G2 are very comfortable with this pace, and I feel H2K are too, so they're really waiting until they hit their power spikes before they want to go all in and make some mayhem.
Well, for G2, at least for their AD carry, they were getting a good amount of just free farm. Wasn't getting contested at all. Problem is, Kikis is starting to fall behind. This is one of the questions we had is, what can Kikis do when he's not on the Tahm Kench? Somebody who can just sit there. This lane matchup now, Odo is coming out fairly far ahead, 56 CS. In goes Vander, though.
They find Hybrid. He is unbreakable, but they put him in a tomb and take him out. First blood secured by Ryu. 10.5 minutes into this game, and they look to start pushing on the mid. True Shot comes in. Meanwhile, Odo up in the top, duking it out with Kikis once more.
Yeah, I think Odo is, even though he's getting bullied out, he knows that his team just getting that advantage in the middle lane is enough to be happy and content. Just sit back a little bit more here for H2K in that top lane. You know that it's going to be fine. But man, Ryu getting that kill, really nice start here. Gets him closer to the Zhonya's Hourglass. You can see he's got Seeker's Arm Guard already. He's just got to do one thing for the next 10 minutes, and that is not die to Perks. That's all he's got to do.
So far, so good. He keeps himself nice and healthy, but I am impressed by G2's ability to answer to H2K's map. This is a team that we consistently praise for being one of, if not the smartest team in Europe. The rotations are superior, but G2 have not missed a beat this game. And despite the fact that they gave up 1 kill there, they still have kept incredibly well and even against this H2K squad, even though it's only 11.5 minutes into the game. So far, looking good for them.
But I feel like what G2 are doing here is fairly similar to almost what Fnatic were trying to do yesterday, what Fnatic did yesterday, sorry, where they held on to the sideways. It did hit,
Long-range farming.
Only 2.
Yeah, well, the Herald's gotten in the way, man.
It's a little bit, but Ryu just turns up and goes, anything you can do, I can do better. Just clears the wave out. It's just like, it's fine, don't worry. So, controlling the side waves against H2K is something that G2 are trying to do. And they're doing it fairly well, but I want to see how H2K react next, because this is their first game without the Corki, which was one of those picks that allows them to just root mid very effectively. This time they've got the Lucians. They're not quite so good at doing it. And G2, they're going to take their second dragon of the game. Excuse me.
Yeah, but that does mean H2K knowing that there is no members of G2 on the top side can start taking the drift field. Perhaps they can now turn the tables and push in another tower and grab a little bit more gold back for themselves. They're still in the lead by about 1,000 at the moment. But G2 are already in position to defend.
Yeah, they are. Holds the top lane. Right now, Ryu knows without the Zhonyas, he is going to have to expend his ultimate on himself or blow Perks up faster, and that's exactly what H2K seem to be looking to do, because Perks maybe throw something out over the wall.
It's one of those
I think they just spotted both. Yeah, if not now, Ryu
yep.
shows himself in the top lane.
A lot of movements, a lot of reactions. There comes the culling from Forgiven. Kikis is half his health bar. Already gone. Forgiven will take a couple of shots on the tower, but the wave's immediately cleared away, and Hybrid shows face. Trick around the other side, and they know with that ward there, that is exactly where he was. So H2K can't get too much more off of that ultimate expenditure.
This is going to be a game of two teams not fighting.
I think you may be right.
Because G2 are just going to want to poke down for a while and then hope that H2K don't engage on them with the Alice, which is going to be the problem, and the one thing we already saw G2 getting caught out with. H2K do have a lot of ability to close distance with the Alistair, with the Lissandra as well. So if they can get a good flanking angle, control vision well enough to get in from the side, H2K should be able to find engages, but they've got to somehow lock down an Ezreal and a Zed, two very slippery champions.
Yep, and speaking of slippery, Ryu does take a lot of damage, but he turns Coom around onto Emperor, and Jankos blows him up.
So Emperor really disrespected Ryu right there. Walking forward like that basically says ult me, and Ryu goes, okay. Ults him. They thought that Hybrid had enough with the shield there to block the damage. Didn't read that Jankos was there, and suddenly Emperor, with his flash, with his heal, stands on the end of the line and somehow wasn't expecting collateral damage. Really weird from Emperor in that situation to do that kind of play.
That frees up just a little bit more damage on this turret, but Trick, Hybrid, and Perch were already there and hungry to take a bite out of this H2K squad. So a little more damage on the turret. True Shot comes in as a fired up Emperor wants to get right back into the action. So far, very low kills on the game. 15 minutes in, H2K leading the line with 2, leading the gold with just about 1,000. But they start to try and push around, and you talked about vision control and how H2K does this so well, especially in the mid lane right now. Vander on that Alistar, he has definitely been the highest, or one of the highest places of ping boards of everybody in Europe.
1,050 gold in Ryu's pocket means that this game just became a lot more difficult for G2, because that's the Zhonya's hourglass. Now Lissandra can clear the side waves and reliably weather the damage from Perks. And now in team fights, you've got that roughly 7.5 seconds that Ryu is going to soak up from everybody around, where you just can't deal with the Lissandra. You throw so much, and she just stands there in her ult, in the Zhonya's. So just became a little bit more problematic. Not to say that G2 can't still do it, just makes it that bit more tricky. Especially on Udyr.
And speaking of Trick, he has had a very hard time finding anyone that he can run right up to and smack down, because how slippery this H2K team is. The really biggest benefit that he's provided are these quicker dragons so far, and 2 in their pocket. But unless you want to try to play to that 5 dragon condition that was not popular so far this year, not very viable so far this year, I am really curious to see what he's got planned on this champion.
So right now he's actually offered not a lot different to any other jungler would offer. If you had a Rek'Sai, it'd probably be in a fairly similar position, but with better side wave maintenance. So the one thing that Udyr will do as this game goes further and further, he's building towards tank, which tells me he's going to run around team fights just slapping people. Slapping for that stun, trying to get as many people locked down for the poke from Emperor, the damage from Perks that can follow up. So that's what he's aiming for, but my real question is that enough to win G2 this game, rather than picking a kind of a more common jungle pick, like the Rek'Sai, which gives you clear strengths?
I think not, because you look at the side of H2K, and they have got so many ways to really protect some of their champions. They've got Vander's disengage. They've got him, kind of making himself the primary target. Yes, Forgiven can get jumped on. Yes, Jankos can get jumped on. Jankos, of course, building a little bit more stats than you might expect an AD carry typically to have, that Graves build. very much more popular. But you've also got Oduwamne, the Stand United shield that can come in. You've got Ryu's lockdown that can come in. There are so many ways that H2K can stop you from taking out a target, and now they will secure this turret after a very long-fought battle of attrition in lane.
Wave clear runs out, Zed's bottom lane, so that's a tower going down for H2K. It is only 18 minutes in the game, they finally get that mid tower. Well, this game still is somewhat in H2K's favor. Odo's recalling on a ward. This will give them the information. I think actually it has just got stopped by Emperor as well throughout a queue. So again, just slowing down H2K, but I don't know if slowing them isn't in this matchup. I feel like H2K, with the double teleport, with the Shen ultimate as well, are just going to be able to control every part of the map that bit better than G2 can push.
Quite possibly. But for the time being, G2 are still keeping fairly well in track.
Yeah.
There's a lot of vision control here that H2K do have in both sides of the river, but you can see the pings onto G2. They are actually prioritizing this dragon.
And G2 for them, they're powering up right now. They're getting the Ezreal to that 2-3 item point. Now comes the true shot barrage. There's like 1 minion if it dies quickly.
Ah!
That's painful.
You can try again in about 60 seconds.
Yeah.
That's CDR, man.
So they're still powering up the Ezreal though. He's still not at... Well, now he's got the Iceborne Gauntlet. This is roughly his kind of time to start coming out onto the map and fighting. Trick's pretty tanky when you look at him. Has the chain vest. I wonder whether that's going Dead Man's Plate right now. Run around, hit people hard in that team fight.
It's like one of my favorite items, by the way, especially for things like that.
Well, it's always weird when you see a jungler come out of the jungle and you're like, wait, he is moving way too fast since I saw him. Oh, wait, he's got Dead Man's Plate.
Well, you know, combine it with the fact that we see the boost 5 or boost of swiftness very commonly now. And there you go.
Budget boots.
Budget boots. Yeah,
Budget
they are cheap, but they are good.
They're cheap and good, yeah, exactly. Because when there's a whole load of slows coming about, that's when you want boots of swiftness. In goes Ryu with the Stand United on.
The good old dragon dance is gonna be a fight. The first one, Emperor, is gonna get taken down by Oduwamne. The fight is on for the rest of these members. Very low on H2K's side. Ryu will try to claw, but he has to go through Zanya's first, and he can't get out. Meanwhile, Trick flashing, slapping. Phoenix form finishes the job though, and he's all over Yingbo.
He is
for a
so
double kill.
tanky.
Absolutely massive here, but he's out by himself until Kikis and Hybrid arrive, and they turn back around onto them. H2K sense an easier opportunity, but they can't pick any more kills. All said and done, it's a 2 for 2.
2 for 2, nobody gets the dragon Trick. Nobody's really put damage down onto him yet, so we didn't have a read on how tanky he is. He just runs around that fight slapping people, is able to take down 2. Ryu with a good engage with the Stand United on. Let's go right back to the beginning. Ryu lost a lot of health though. Did he ult Emperor in this situation? Yes, he does. Rather than ulting himself here and getting the damage on multiple people as well as holding himself, now Trick comes into the fight, is trying to lock down the rest of H2K. As you said, Ryu passed to Sonya's, which holds him there. Even without Emperor, G2 still have a fair amount of damage in this, but H2K kind of have to come back and respect Trick right now, force him to run away.
I love how Hybrid and Kikis come back in here, and Perks is just like, nope. Okay, I'll throw a few shurikens.
I think they thought the flash was down from Odo, if I'm honest. Otherwise, on that low health, I don't think you run back in that situation.
Well, we got round 2 here. Clearly, G2 really want this Dragon 3 for them, but H2K might take it back. They do, and Trick gets knocked right out of the pit. Perks gets tombed up, and he is shot down by Ryu.
That's great from Vander, knowing that he doesn't need to combo there. Just hit Perks over. Even if he had the combo available, not Perks, hit Trick over. That's exactly what you want to do. Udyr has no ability to get back over that wall. His flash was down. Even though he has the extra movement speed, he has to run all the way around the pit.
Yep, very, very slow, and we already saw he had spent his flash to be able to secure the kill onto Ryu last time, so a little bit of revenge as they pick Perks back up. H2K securing a little bit more of a lead as Emperor takes that blue buff and goes right back to the mid. We finally get to see the blue build Ezreal firing about as fast as he can, but H2K are starting to speed up themselves with the 1-3-1.
They absolutely are. With 2 teleports available, Kikis does not have his.
3 technically.
And yeah, with
but 2
Stand
on the
United.
same guy.
Yeah, exactly. Perks running Ignite as you would on Zed, so he has to kind of hoof it from bottom lane if the fight does start, but Forgiven doesn't look to be fighting anytime soon. Requires Vander there with Jankos to be able to engage. Also, they just have to be careful with Trick because he's getting really, really tanky right now. Looks like he's opting for Randuin's after that Deadman's Blade. So this is going to be a very tanky Udyr to try and take down.
I think we'll be in for some pretty crazy bear chases this game as Ryu waits patiently in the brush for Kikis to go way too far forward. They ping it out. He wants some help from Jankos, so he'll be slow in coming as he comes to the lane, but Ryu looks to get ready to lock him up. 2-level difference. Just patient enough. Too patient.
In he goes.
Oh, and immediate wild growth, but there's the Frozen Tomb. Jankos is coming close, should be able to finish this job. Kikis knows his time is almost up, and who do they give it to? It's Ryu. 3-1-2 on the game.
Yeah, however, mid lane is what you got to take a look at because G2 are utilizing the time that Kikis took to tie up top lane to try and push mid lane here. They have, however, got to deal with Odo Omni down in the bottom lane as well. He has a cannon minion down there with him. So G2 on the retreat. Does Emperor have his ult? Yes, he does. Is it going to come out?
Yes, it does. Wow, good wave.
Now it clears the wave
All right.
effectively.
So half a tower and a kill for 1 tower. Worth?
Well, I mean, for G2, it's worth they unlock a little bit more of the map, unless Odo takes this tower as well. Those ranged minions aren't in range of the tower yet, so Odo has to push the melee minions in. The second one's still, yeah, that's only one of them. Odo's just going to be like,
fine.
Screw it, I'm going to get...
Oh, no,
he didn't even get it.
He got scared by Kikis.
One auto. Oh,
Who gets scared by a Lulu?
I did. That squid hat, man, are you telling me if you were like swimming in the sea, you saw that thing bobbing around, you wouldn't be like, oh my god, I gotta get out of here?
No, but that's because I know Splatoon is a thing.
True. Well, Kikis is a kid now, he's a squid now in this game.
And he's apparently enough to scare a ninja.
Tricks are bad now. Could end up becoming a phoenix or a tiger or a turtle. So we'll have to keep a track of that menagerie going on in the jungle at this point. But Emperor looking to add some more slows to his arsenal here. Looking for that red buff as well.
Does manage to secure that up quite easily. Ryu in the top side pushing. Pings are flying. G2 don't want to let Ryu have free push on this, but they are a little slow to react, so he's already autoing away. And he should be able to make his easy escape. Calling on Jankos for a little bit of help as well, and only Perks is here to respond. We'll clear the wave out quite quickly, though.
Yeah, only like 4 minions in that wave, so Perks is like, well, you can go on me if you want. I'm not too bothered about this, but H2K are back to playing a little bit more of a slow game. We were seeing them end games at this point in week 1. Seems like teams have really figured out now going into week 2 the importance of holding the side waves at least, which I'm glad to see.
Yeah, they're definitely not going to be able to get away with it quite as easily, but still, H2K, as Perks fires the parting shot onto Ryu.
That got normalized as well. It used to be like around a quarter of a second. Now it's actually only like the last 0.1 second of a recoil.
Yeah, it actually is rarer than you would think when you see it happen.
Yep. But then we see it like every few. Run and hit the tower, Odo.
Oh no, go!
Kikis,
go! Just do it. There we go. 400 gold.
Got it.
How about that?
Kikis is like, I'm just gonna punish you.
Face
for doing
your
that.
fears. He even got the ultimate out of Kikis too.
Yeah, he did. Kikis, it'll come back fairly quickly.
True.
He's got the Boots of Lucidity, so it's not too bad for Kikis. Unless H2K force from that.
They're respecting the trick.
Trick runs so fast.
Don't
man.
poke the bear, guys. Or the phoenix. The turtle's okay. He just won't take damage.
I've got nothing. I've got nothing. I'm sorry,
We've
Fire.
got so many animal jokes that we've run through so far. I think you're already good. Another dragon's about a minute away, and I can't believe I'm saying this in Season 6, but that looks like G2's next move.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. We've seen such little priority on reaching, multiple dragons when you get towards that 5. G2 are only on 2 right now, so it is going to take them a long time, and I don't think that should be what they're aiming for in any sense of the imagination. What they need to do is somehow try and poke down H2K, but what H2K are doing is every time they're pushing in the side waves, they're just creating enough trouble in the mid lane as well to drag the G2 focus away.
He didn't hit the ping.
He didn't hit the ping. The rest of his team was kind of around 20 seconds to go, but...
Yeah, but see, it's so telegraphed. H2K know this is happening. They are actually moving their way up towards the top side.
This.
They can try to trade for this as a trade Baron for this one and draw attention of G2.
Yeah, well, they drop 2 pinks here as well. They know Odo's down in the bottom lane. Trick
goes in,
goes in,
out.
just hits him once, runs away. He's like, ha, warning shot. Stolen.
It's about
Nicely
sending a
done,
message.
Emperor.
Several shots being fired from the backside. Emperor keeps throwing those cues.
H2K have positioned around to get themselves in front of the turret. Forgiven chooses the damage on Kikis instead of clearing the wave. He knows he can clear that himself. And Odo is still pushing down in the bottom lane.
They can keep the side push up. Odo's got both his teleports still available to him. There is no reaction. G2 can try to force a fight, but immediately whoever they start chunking, you're going to get Stand United. And in comes Trick, but he's knocked right on up, and all of a sudden, Perks is in, Perks is out, goes right in onto Forgiven, but immediately there's the Shen, the knock-up from Trick, and there now, Ryu and Vander falling oh so low, Trick in the middle, but shut down courtesy of Jankos. Vander might follow, but he's a big cow, and he keeps himself alive. Trick is still the only one dead in this so far. As I say it, Kikis falls. H2K do what they do best, and manage to outplay G2 Esports.
So much went on Forgiven there, and he survived through the damage, even keeping his heal available. Looked like an exhaust was used on Perks, I believe. Same time, Hybrid exhausted Forgiven, so there was a whole lot of damage going on that wasn't really doing too much. H2K can hold through that fight and turn it back around as Odo Amne used that Stand United to get into the fight. Both teleports were saved as well from H2K, so even though they won that fight, now they get the Baron, and their 1-3-1 is going to be even stronger than it was before.
Yep, a little bit slow to start this one off, but Ryu using that teleport to get there a little bit quicker. The remaining members of G2 trying to act quickly to get in. You can hear the Ghost Blade popping for Perks, but they can't quite get enough done. True Shot goes in a little too early, and now Perks will take some parting shots. Hybrid trying to stop it, but man, those bullets are starting to hurt.
And Kikis has to go bot now to clear that out. Let's take another look at the beginning of this fight, because Trick manages to find his way into the fight a little bit later, and I believe gets Lulu ulted. Here's the exhaust. Perks even uses a QSS himself to get himself free in this fight. Trick just takes too much damage from the poor members of H2K, and Vander does such a good job zoning out the rest of the damage coming from G2 that they have to hightail it. Emperor on full health can't do too much more in this fight, has to back himself away in two.
Yeah, once he's melted through the front line, backline's got to go. So, looks like in all of that, H2K also secured a Dragon, just picking one up for themselves and denying a further one from G2, so they've now evened that score 2-2. The score currently stands 8-2 in kills, 5,000 gold now separating these teams, and H2K just inching forward ever so slowly, but it's a logarithmic curve, or an exponential curve rather. My math is still pretty bad as always.
Probably better than mine. Mine is terrible. I choose never to do it on cast.
I have yet to learn that lesson.
The one thing that's not too bad to do mathematics-wise is figure out how much time champions are soaking up, and I can tell you that Vander and Ryu in these team fights are taking a lot of time. That is the mathematical term, a lot. One word, ALOT. I know that's not grammatically correct, but I'm hoping a lot memes are just going through the chat now. I'm channeling my inner pulse. You know, that's the key thing about this Alistar, about this Lissandra, is when you're soaking up the enemy damage's time in these fights, you can output so much yourself. Man, Perks,
he's still going
dancing
down.
Shoes.
Indeed you are. Way to pick that one up. Even though they QSS'd out of the Frozen Tomb, Perks will be down. Base is wide open, inhibitor falls, and you can see the damage that H2K has is getting real. No one saw that, Ryu.
No, so he was aiming for the base gate. Just get stuck.
I don't need to escape. Meanwhile, Kikis has got a deal on the top side. H2K doing a fantastic 4-1 split here. And they still got those double teleports available on Odo Amne. Ryu's will soon be, actually it's still going to be about a minute or two before it comes back up.
Yeah, it'll time out with the Baron. Yeah, it's going to time out roughly the same time as the Baron. If not, Baron times out a little bit before. But Forgiven and H2K have got so much from this already. They've cracked open the bottom inhibitor. Now they're looking for mid lane. And here's where the wave clear starts to run out, especially with Perks not available. Doesn't have that shurikens to clear through anything either. Trick's going to go in.
Tries to come on in, but he's going to get hopped as he goes very, very close to death, actually staying alive courtesy of the Lulu ult, but they've got to give up the next inhibitor turret. H2K marching on forward, Forgiven with another good calling. Chunks Kikis to half his health. Another inhibitor falls. The next one on the menu will be the top side. H2K, 10K gold in the lead, looking to answer back with a win here from that heartbreaking loss yesterday against Fnatic.
Well, my question of what do H2K do if they don't have Corki after 3 games of having him is answered with an old favorite from Forgiven. Do the same thing, but with Illusion. control the waves, push yourself into the base, and ultimately just get control of the map and force G2 to react. Can't do too much when they try and force a fight. Trick runs in, gets blown up the last 3 fights.
And I have been so impressed with Ryu, this guy you see going up on the top side. With how aggressive he has been this season so far, he's played a lot of assassins. You can call Lissandra also an assassin, and he's been able to amass not just a good score because he's getting in there and soaking up and clearing these kills and buying time like you're saying, but because he knows how to target these squishy champions and just lock them down, or at the very least, make sure they're taken out of these fights. He really has been unlocked this season, I feel, and it shows with probably talking about how he's sort of the lesser observed but always constant carry of H2K.
And constant talking now as well. One thing we've learned about H2K is Ryu is calling a lot of the shots with Odoamne in this setup. So at least when I've heard them talking, it's always been Ryu and Odoamne. I'm looking forward to seeing how they adapt with that. But if Ryu's on a champion like Lissandra that finds those openings and can just say, follow me, like he could be doing here, forces Emperor back.
They don't need to go in, though. They've got easy poke to take this one down. And now another culling comes out. Hybrid and Kikis take a bit. True shot. Ryu might want to back away, but he goes right back.
He goes in.
Lasagnas. He gets Emperor locked up, and he's trying to finish the job. He might just do it, though. Taken out, but Odoamne picks Hybrid. Meanwhile, Emperor gets a shutdown, but he falls himself. Forgiven. They forgot all about him, and he's gonna finish the job. Trick now running away. Ooh dear. He's not gonna save the game for G2, and H2K say, forget it. We can just take the base and end the game here.
Ryu with the Kuribo play, just going straight in, putting himself there as the scapegoat. Locks down 3 people. It's enough for H2K to put themselves in the spot to win the game.
Forgiven still wants his KDA to get padded, but it's all over. 34.5 minutes. H2K secure another win.
Slow and steady wins the race, but ultimately in the tortoise and the hare, Trick left himself in turtle stance for just too long in this game. G2 ended up falling behind, and H2K continue their good streak.
Absolutely, and despite the very close loss yesterday, that has just got to be feeling so good. They executed incredibly well in a macro play. I do got to give G2 credit though, and you can see some smiles on their faces. This is their first loss. And man, did they really show up against what many consider to be one of the best teams in Europe.
I think for G2, you look at this setup for them, it was very difficult for them to do anything because they are kind of playing a reactionary style. Even with the Zed, who you'd imagine Perks would be looking for the openings, looking for the kills, he can never find them without H2K making a mistake. And if that mistake never comes, or very infrequently comes and you can't capitalize on it, it's a difficult composition to run.
Yeah.
And that's the problem G2 suffered from, was H2K didn't give them many opportunities to capitalize, and the only person they really could have blown up with the Zed would have been the Lucian, and Forgiven 4-0-4.
And you could see every time they tried to jump on him, instantly the stand united, instantly an exhaust, or Ryu would lock down the target. You can see Prolly very happy has to be with that result. For H2K moving forward, they can be very, very happy with their week 1 and week 2. And for G2, I think you really have to say the same. They did try a very, very awkward strategy, but they kept to it, and credit for experimenting early on in the split.
Yeah, credit to them for sure. One thing to note, can't remember yesterday's scoreline for
The Udyrs pushed everything out of my head.
Well, that's at least the 3rd game out of 4 that Forgiven has gone unkilled in.
Oh, that's true. He did. I believe he had one
death. I think he died yesterday. I can't remember off the top of my head.
It was either once or twice. But yeah, 404. That's not found.
Back on form.
Yeah. Well, the Lucian has always been an old favorite of his. I'm going to sneak at least one more.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good, it's so bad that it's good again, Pyra. It goes all the way around.
It's still a win.
It's still a win.
Yeah.
Just like a win for H2K.
It was. I mean, really, really fantastic. Just slowly creeping their gold lead up the way they wanted it. Never got behind. And really, Trick was like, I know, I'm
still laughing.
Trick was the guy that really was the one even making any plays at all. It was just way too slow, and they just couldn't get it going. But congratulations to H2K. For now, though, we are going to send it back to the analyst desk to take a look at that game.
Why, thank you very much. I would like to challenge one thing that the caster said there right at the end. All credit to G2 for experimenting in week 2 of the EU LCS. When you are 3-0 with this comp, I don't agree.
He was a big fan of G2's composition. Tell us why.
I hated G2's composition. A lot of things about it I didn't like. First of all, I wonder if they were looking for Lucian Lulu as a comp. It's something we've seen used in LCK quite a bit with the first pick Lulu, because there are 2 AD carry bans, Kalista and Corki gets removed, so like the second tier AD carries somewhat step in. But because it is picked early by Forgiven, I feel like this whole comp kind of runs out of power, because it's going to be like Lulu Ezreal that's super late game focused, and then a Zed who's very early to mid game focused against double TP, Lissandra counter pick, and Shen as well. I felt like they had nothing they could do.
Yeah, I mean, even if they were to ever get to that late game stage where Lulu Ezreal gets off, they're still full AD in the end. And Shen is just going to go full armor. Alistar is going to be really tanky. Lissandra can stun people for 5 seconds with Sonya as an ult. So there's never going to come an opportunity where Ezreal can actually pretty much solo carry the game. So it just felt like they were not complementing one another, you know? Like, even though Zed can perhaps make up for their lack of early game from Ezreal, I still feel like there was never a chance, as you said, in the game where they could be like, this is our chance to win the game. It was just H2K's from the beginning.
Yeah, power spikes never really synergized, and sometimes that's okay, you know, if you want to get some champion to late game, but then it has to be almost like a Rise or something that is a distinct payoff, not Blue as well, guiding people around. I mean, I did enjoy the Udyr. There was that one fight, you know, everybody forgot about him. He was like, later, kill 2 people, but that was about it in terms of highlights for this game.
But this is also the kind of game H2K loves to play, because as long as they don't make a big mistake, there's almost nothing the enemy team can do looking at the pick and ban phase. So they play it out super simple. Lane swap early on from G2. Again, that's executed properly by both teams, honestly. But then it's just a matter of time before H2K groups mid with Graves and Lucian. Because who's going to defend? If Zed is sitting there, he's doing nothing. If it's Ezreal, he has no proper wave clear.
No one's going to defend.
Nobody's going to defend it.
No
And like
do it.
H2K just slowly played around and said, we don't need to take any chances.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that Gamers 2 were the ones lane swapping in this case, because I felt like their bot matchup was not that bad at all. And mid lane, if it were to be standard lanes, would have more open space to actually one-on-one. Because Zed is pretty strong into Lissandra as far as I know, pre-6. And I mean, Lulu's laning phase is more than fine as well. And I think Udyr can maybe do more ganking than Graves. So I felt like if there was ever a time G2 would win this game, it would be early game. But they just gave that all away by lane swapping, so it's like playing H2K's game pretty much from the beginning.
And they guessed wrong.
They guessed and they guessed wrong. And maybe we can not fault them for not being on top of the lane swaps, as that is not the easiest mechanic in the game. But the picks and bans, I mean, we have to go back to that. Why not try and go for some things that are more comfortable?
They probably thought they were outmatched in a certain regard and tried to cheese a little bit. I think that's maybe they came in with a plan. The plan backfires, and at that point, they didn't have anything ready. Maybe like Deficio said, you know, didn't maybe expect the Kalista ban to come out. Suddenly all the tier 1s are off the table. Sure, we'll go Lucian. Oops, Lucian's gone. Maybe expected Lulu to be off the table. A lot of teams have actually just been respecting Lulu as a power pick and not leaving it open. And then teams that come in with a certain blue side strategy suddenly find themselves like surprised,
forced to pick it.
Forced, you know, oh, this OP champ's open. We kind of don't want to play it, but we sure as hell don't want to leave it open and give it an additional pick next to it in first rotation purple side. You obviously never know unless you ask them, and even then they could just...
I mean, we actually got a taste of it yesterday as well, where they left Lulu against us, and we were kind of debating, like, should we actually take the Lulu and give them the Lissandra? Because it was quite obvious that they actually wanted to make this trade, and I think Gamers 2 should have taken the Lissandra here. It just feels like it's more Gamers 2, the whole diving as 5 and playing more aggressive. So actually, H2K forcing them to pick Lulu, I felt like it was in H2K's favor, even though Lulu is a power pick.
And in the end, maybe some mistakes made by Gamers 2. G2.
G2.
Put me onto it.
It's G2, Martin.
Yeah,
Don't ever
G2
forget
Esports.
that. No more Gamers 2.
But still, they are still at the top of the tables, even after week 2. Let's take a look at the standings. We have a lot of teams actually at the top of the table. 5 to be exact. Elements, G2, H2K, Team Vitality, and Unicorns of Love are all at 3 and 1. I'm most surprised by Elements. I'm just going to come out and say it.
Yeah, I mean, Elements has been playing, honestly, probably as good as they could possibly play at this point. Because, again, it's 5 new players being put together. I'm very surprised about Rallis and Sprattle together. The synergy, I think, is absolutely fantastic between these 2 guys. So, Elements only has been surprising. A lot of the games they've been playing, though, is against teams who also make a lot of mistakes. Yeah. But Elements are doing exactly what they should do to avoid fighting for relegation.
Yeah, it's like we said earlier. We can't fault them for winning the game, really. And Steve has been stepping up slowly. He has been using that very strong Tom Kench. But then again, you know, if they give it to you, why not use it?
They ban out his Fiora now.
What do you make of Mr. Ralls and Sprattle now as a couple?
I mean,
Pair.
Mr. Rallis has always been... It's kind of always been hard to put him somewhere. It's like some games he's pretty non-existent, but some games he's really, really good. And I feel like this was one of his weeks as well. And I mean, Sprattle has perhaps had a tough start back in Summer Split last year, but I feel like maybe now he has a more of a
Synergy?
similar style to his AD carry
Yeah.
than what they had with Tabs, because I feel like they didn't really complement one another. So perhaps he fits better there as well.
Do you think he has a bigger role on this team? Because again, it's 5 new players coming in. He's the only remaining guy technically on Elements, and like it seems to me like he's often the guy in front. He's the guy engaging, and he's not the guy just sitting back, which was some of the problems he had. Like he did nothing for Elements in the summer split.
I don't know. From speaking to him, he's just also a very confident person, so I don't feel that that would affect him. But I do think is Mr. Rouse is just a very like plug and play AD carry. You can put him almost in every team, and he will deliver a certain constant basis. Then the variance happens if he just really meshes well to a certain level. Then he will go beyond that. He's not like necessarily always a top 3 carry, but I feel he always just delivers a certain constant good AD carry player.
Yep.
I think
agree.
it's quite interesting with him still being on the team, and you say maybe he has to take that role of shot caller, because you guys have talked a lot about how you and Febevan need to fill the void that was left after Yellowstar. How have you been finding that as an AD carry to maybe have to step in and make those calls?
Well, I think it's really hard because in my past at least, or in my previous teams, I've always been kind of filling the voids with information. So I'm pretty much just asking questions like, what do you think about this matchup? What can you do in this matchup? I think we should do this and this, but I've never really been the one making the decisions. So it's a very different transition I've had to make for the team's best. But I feel like slowly but surely I'm growing into it, and it's perhaps affecting my gameplay slightly, but I still feel like it's what the team needs. So I'll gladly put that on my back for sure.
I think it's important for people to understand that shot calling on a professional team is not one guy talking only, and everyone else just shuts up and follows him. Like,
Unless you watch Mata's player cam.
Maybe, okay, he's yelling quite a lot at the moment, but it's a lot of players feeding information constantly about the lane situation, you know, the jungler, when do you need to back, when can you do certain things, when do you hit a power spike, and so on. And all that information gets fed into 1 or 2 guys who's then saying, okay, what is the call we make as a team with all the information we have?
Yep.
So obviously it's a lot of people being able to communicate. It's not just one guy running the show.
However, sometimes we see that one guy coming into a team can make a lot happen. We saw that for H2K last year with Kasing. Now he's on Vitality, and we want to take another look at that game that they played versus OG. Also a comeback once again, and a lot coming down maybe for OG. Individual mistakes by Power of Evil, and also the team not being able to come back because they were so far ahead at that point.
Yeah, they just made a couple of sloppy mistakes, both in communication, and then Power of Evil got caught a couple of times just having Flash available. And that's something that is really, really crucial and shouldn't really happen. But the biggest thing for me still is like the couple of times where the communication isn't there. Like Amazing and SOAS, they failed a dive, they won. Sure, they won up that game, but this game, in the mid game, there was a team fight where they get a pick. Sven, he walks to the top lane. Amazing aggressively paths into the mid lane. And not only that, after Amazing gets caught, instead of taking the safe way out, left side, Shen and Syndra still path into the mid lane again. Like they're not communicating. They're just opting for the fight, and they're not looking at the minimap at each other.
Origin is losing as a team. There might be individual mistakes, but it's on the entire team, honestly. And there's still a lot for them to work on. They had probably the toughest schedule coming in. Vitality, you guys.
Yeah, we had a pretty tough one as well.
H2K, okay, you guys had maybe the same.
But
but
you
like
got the second toughest.
It's okay.
facing all these expected top teams, and then once you come in and you start poorly, it just snowballs downhill.
But I still feel like if there's one team that's going to solve these issues, it's going to be Origin, right? Because they're very experienced players. They have a very experienced coaching staff. I guess with Peke helping them out on the sideline. So I wouldn't be too worried about that.
I would probably question the coaching staff, though.
Yeah,
when it comes to experience.
certain
I mean,
extent, yes.
this is the first year Peke is not playing, and he's kind of stepping back. They have a new coach in Hazel coming in as well. So
The third or fourth now.
different coaches have been trying in and out. He's more, again, of a life coach, not in-game doing too much for the team. So I wonder if they're still trying to figure out what do they need behind the scene to do well as a team.
Ban sugar and yoga.
Maybe that's it. You know, maybe it's the sugar. I
Do
know.
they still drink Coke? Who knows,
Who
man?
knows?
That might be
Find
the
out
problem.
next week. In any case, talking about maybe losses snowballing out of control. Sadly, at the bottom of the table, Giants is at 0-4. Splice did manage to pick up their very first win here. What do you see in the future for these teams? You mentioned that you saw on Splice maybe a lot of good individual players, but do they have what it takes to end up in the middle of the table?
I mean, I actually had a feature last night, I think, where I had a question about Splice since we're playing them next week. And I saw...
Spoilers.
Yeah. I saw that between week 1 and week 2, they actually tried to make changes. Even though they were losing, they were not sticking with the same game. They were still trying to make changes and improvements. So I think there is potential in this team to become something better than what they've shown. But it's just a matter of time and how many wins they can actually pick up if they even make it to playoffs.
That was Giants, though.
Yeah, that was Splice. But then on the side of Giants, what we just saw, it's worrying me right now where they're at, and I don't see any growth. I don't see any. So you highlighted changes for Splice. I didn't see many changes for Giants. They came out, it was slightly better, but it's just not quite there yet. And they actually have made some changes in the past, and I wonder if will we actually see that this split, because the average level required, like the average level of League of Legends required to be considered decent is going up every year. And I feel like Giants is still trying to catch up to like last year's level of decent play. And every year more is expected of you. Like coming into week 1, people were so good already at split pushing, rotating, stuff like that. And Giants still playing catch up.
And I think a lot of teams, when they're trying to get better and better, they look at, okay, like what's one thing we can at least say we have? And then for some teams, it's like, oh, we have great individual players, like Origin. We have great talent. So now we need to work on, you know, communication and these kind of things. With Giants, I'm kind of missing really that one thing I can say they have they can build on, because now some of the new players coming in, Adam didn't have a great game today. We haven't seen too much from him. Ku, I think he's doing okay individually, but it's hard for him synergizing with the laners. So I'm looking at Giants, and I see Xpepi in the mid lane as like the main carry.
Yeah.
But not even him as a player is able to do a whole lot at the moment. And then also the macro strategies is lacking for the team. So something really has to change for Giants if they want to start picking up wins.
Yep,
Good.
that's true.
Yep, so
that's true.
next.
So let's talk some more about Fnatic, because we have Reckless here, and I want to talk actually a lot more about the Fnatic versus UL game, because in my opinion it was a fantastic game to watch. Of course, quite heartbreaking for you. You were mentioning how coming in that shot calling position, you might give up on some other aspects of your play. Is that in any way control to what's happened in that game as well, or what?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think we had a pretty clear idea going into things, but they like kind of stopped that halfway through when they. Stacked level 1, or I actually don't even know what they did level 1.
They ran straight to tower.
Their bot lane ran straight to top lane tier 1 turret, and they hit there. So when the lane swap started, you guys, and this is a fight later in the game, but we're going back to where it all began in the initial phase, is that they basically. Wait, is this the post game already? No, that's still.
Well, you don't just let it. It's like
I want to watch the pretty
decor.
pictures. It's B-roll. Yeah. What happened was, so they ran to tier 1, but you guys actually ended up doing your lane swap. In the same quadrant too, your double jungler started there. So you went with no camp versus Kalista Thresh with camp advantage. So that lane is lost. And then bot lane Ryze was strong against Poppy. There were no jungle opening, so Fnatic was from the get-go was set very far behind.
Yes, and I think from that point on, we didn't really have the tools to create the fights we wanted. Because they were just going to 1-3-1 us, and then they were just like deciding the tempo of the game. And it was really hard for us to do anything against that.
Still feel like Alistar and Poppy together is something. Normally, you would say this is okay to start fights. I feel like there was a lot of missed opportunities.
Yeah, I agree.
Where Unicorns were like almost baiting you to go, especially with Noxiac flashing in on Alistar, and you didn't pull the trigger, and then it was like you backed away, and then the cooldowns were gone, and that was a big issue because like Unicorns kept trying and trying and trying and trying and trying.
Kalista ulti does help in that regard. I think the one thing that was really nice from you guys was that you had the Rift Herald, Scholar.
Oh, that was fantastic.
And you went for the double tower push in the top lane. Did you call it? Who called it? Yes. Short call. We got it.
I mean, it's something we have been practicing, as I explained before, with the H2K.
Well, we just saw it
H2K
already.
was something that they did this a lot in week 1. They were very effective on making sure that they got the better trade every time. So it's something we kind of just learned from them, I would say.
And it's where you can use the Rift Herald in professional play. Solo queue probably won't work too well.
Well, mentioning Noxiac as well, in that game, we thought we saw a difference between when things were still going well and then at the end when you guys didn't pull the trigger. Do you feel like he got maybe hindered a bit by the fact that the engage failed in the middle of the game and you guys were playing from the back foot? And how do you try and work with them?
I would just say most of the pressure was on his back, because I didn't feel like we were decisive enough in terms of TPs, because I feel like we could have used them a lot more than we did. I don't even think we used them once in the game. So it was like all on Noxiac to engage. I think he felt the pressure for sure, and then it was just really hard for him to find openings because they had Kalista ult to save the Thresh. The Zed was not even part of the fight. Ryze was not part of the fight, and Rexa was just hiding in between, right? So he had no opportunities. So I'm pretty sure he just felt the pressure, which is something I should be able to help out on because I'm, after all, the captain. So it's my job.
It's actually a good point. If you go back and you look at the later stages of the game, once 2 inhibitors were down, there were actually a couple of wards that Fnatic placed outside of their base with the automatically generated home guards. We could have seen maybe Poppy teleport with the home guards. Don't E in because your dad gets flashed, but you can just pop W to neutralize Kalista. At the same time, package comes in and you can just like go for the wombo.
Yeah,
I
I
feel
think
like that was like maybe the panic move you could have done, but it's really risky. If that backfires, game's instantly over.
Yeah, but I think either way, once you're 2 nips down, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
So I think we should have pulled the trigger at some point, and we
Well,
should have
sure.
been more decisive than we were.
Yeah.
But it's just such a different game than from scrims and solo queue and the games I've seen or the games we've played so far in the LCS. It's just very, very different. This game, at least from my opinion, like UL plays a very specific style as well with the set in the mid lane, the 1-3-1.
But it's a different style because you played against them last year,
Yep.
and we were often like criticizing them for being too inconsistent
Yep.
in the way they're playing. What do you feel has changed now for Unicorns?
I think Diamond Prox is a huge benefit for them. It just feels like everything revolves around him. He decides the tempo of the game. He decides what gets done, and I think he's a really good player, and I think he can control that.
I think we actually can't deny that Steelback is a considerable upgrade over Vardex too.
Yep.
Especially
Steelback's
because
playing well,
he
for
seems
sure.
to have unlocked Hylissang
Yep.
in a certain way too.
Yep.
Oh yeah, this is where we see him. This is actually Steelback going in. You guys don't have audio, but right here, he whispers, "Steelback sends his regards." If everyone-
You were waiting so long.
I was waiting so long for that, and then I opened
Stole
Reddit.
it from
and
Reddit.
No, Chucks.
You said it first, and then it was on Reddit,
Reddit?
guys.
Oh,
Also,
my God.
also Steelback wouldn't say
How could he
himself that
steal
he
it?
sends
Yeah,
his
but
own
he did-
regards.
nobody else hugged Featherman.
You need
like,
someone
how
else
can I
to
create
say
this joke? You know,
that Steelback sends his regards.
see now this
Learn your
becomes-
Game of Thrones.
We actually, that's
Oh,
cheap.
yeah.
I'm just saying.
The entire day we make this entire setup, and then the physio just sits there quietly.
I was just
And
waiting.
then right when you get on air, it's just like he takes the pen and he's like, ah!
Actually, I thought it was someone else doing it, and you said then the Steelback joke, but I didn't realize it was Steelback doing
it's
it.
a Song of Ice and Fire, not Game of Thrones, you filthy casual.
Okay, fair enough.
In any case, I think it's a great moment, though, for Steelback.
Definitely.
Just doing that. He also said
Oh,
it
yeah.
in the interview. I wanted to prove that I was better. And, I mean, he wasn't bad or horrible.
at
or anything.
MSI,
He's going
yes.
here. At MSI, it wasn't his
But
best performance.
that was against some of the best players in the world.
Yeah,
So, like,
so-
you can't expect him to go in his first split and then go even with, like, Deft and Bang and so on. So, obviously, yes, he had a tough tournament. He was good in NA, and he's been good now.
I would say for sure that they have made upgrades in terms of their roster.
Yeah.
And it feels like they're really coming together as well. I mean, I see a lot of Diamond Prox, Chachi solo queue duo, and they're doing really well there as well. So it just like feels like the team is coming together. And I actually asked Diamond Prox personally, because I know for myself how hard it is to make the transition between one org and another. If he was okay and how things were feeling, and he said it was really good and he felt really at home there already. So I think things are going really well.
It's actually super cool. Like when you, I just watched them do their fan meet, and Diamond Prox was like super casual, but like I still have the memories of the cold and distant Diamond Prox from season 2 and 3, where if you looked at him like
that beat you every single time.
DreamHack.
details.
Not DreamHack.
Yeah, not DreamHack. But and then here's just like this jolly, like more social side, this fun side of Diamond is opening up, and I like seeing that honestly.
We need to keep in mind that last year, when Sean's joined Gambit, there was a lot of talk between him and Diamond about how Diamond had to become more of a leader, more of a shot caller, and he worked a lot with him. And he said like, okay, Diamond is super good on his own, but he needs to get the team going, and that's what he's doing now. He's literally like basically making every lane better.
Yep. I'm doing good for UOL and Steelback in there as well. That's about it for the team's perspective. Now that we have you here, we got to talk AD carries as well, because it's been incredibly interesting so far. In my opinion, a lot of high picks. We had Corki, Kalista, Lucian, and Ezreal are actually the most contested AD carry picks. We have Graves, but of course he ends up in top lane and jungle more than he ends up at AD carry role at all. What is your thoughts of those highly picked champions right now and their influence?
I would say, I mean, the name of the game so far has been Kalista, right? And I think that's not because Kalista by herself is the strongest. I would actually say it's because Kalista enables her support to do pretty much whatever he wants at all stages of the game. So it's very interesting to see the transition teams are making in regards of the support meta.
We're also in a meta where hard engage is somewhat lacking on a lot of the picks,
Yeah.
like Malphite is not played or something. So instead you have a Kalista who can pull up her support if needed and throw him in there, especially with Alistar. Like that combo together is just disgusting.
It also just fundamentally changes the playstyle of a support. Whereas if you have to respect certain boundaries in the game, because if you overextend past that, you're dead. Or you have to, do I flash into the fight? Do I have a way out? No, just flash into the fight as many times as you want, because they can always pull you out. And even then, you can decide to re-engage and trade your life. So it just gives you double the options and triple the excitement.
I want to see Corki mid though,
Yeah.
soon. Because like Corki mid is so good over in LCK, and it's so good to have as a flex pick, but in Europe, I believe we've only seen it as AD carry so far. It is obviously still a super strong AD carry pick, like it's probably, in terms of pure damage.
But I would actually say it's better mid though, because I feel like Corki scales so well with levels. When you get that to
Exactly.
level 11 and you have the Triforce, it's really strong.
And also
That's
you win most
slower
lane
on AD.
matchups. Like it's super good in lane.
Yeah.
Give me Corki mid lane.
What about Lucian? Will he come back?
Low range, does like almost zero damage in team fights.
Only into Corki 80 carry. Like
Yeah.
if Lucian destroys Corki in lane, if the supports are like slightly equal.
Yeah.
But I mean, why
We
would
have
you
to be careful though, because LCK is still spamming Lucian.
No, I think
Just Europe hates
the best part about Lucian is his flexibility. The fact that you can just pick him early on and he will fit pretty much in whatever comp, and he will fit pretty much against whatever comp as well. So he's just very flexible in terms of how we can play the game.
But his main problem, seeing as he was picked so much week 1 and once now in week 2, what happened?
I think his scaling, like his ratio of scaling is a bit too slow sometimes. I feel like you have to just farm too much, and then if the enemy team has a Kalista and then the engage on support, you just end up sitting on a side lane like trying to farm out your Essence Reaver, and then they're just diving mid already, right? So I think that's why people made a transition from Lucian to Corki, because Corki's power spike is earlier than Lucian's. But then again, I still feel like in LCK, for example, they're playing Lucian mainly because the games are so long. And once the game gets to like these 3-4 items, Lucian is, it's a powerhouse for sure. Once he has that Scimitar, the Fire Cannon, he doesn't have the problem of low range anymore, and he's just wrecking house. And I think Bang showcased that pretty well today.
Did he not have a Lulu again supporting him?
Yeah, I actually don't know what's going on in LCK, because I think FLICKR had Gangplank one game, and the next game had Lulu. And here that's like...
Yeah,
that would
Well,
be-
G2 just had Lulu.
But
Yeah.
I do think if you have some additional wave clear, Lucian is strong enough in the early game to not be sacrificed there, but he scales well enough for an 80 carry position to warrant picking maybe a lesser pressure, more wave clear mid.
Yep.
You know, getting to late game LCK style.
Yeah. Well, very interesting discussion, and it's all about the 80 carries also in the Fantasy LCS, because you really wish you had Steel back in your lineup this week, going huge in-game also for Fantasy. 11 kills, 4 assists, 2 triple kills, 0 deaths. He is today's Fantasy leader with 39 points. This is one of the best days in Steelback's young career, I would say. I mean, I can't speak for him, but I mean, it's pretty good.
Well, from what we have seen,
Yeah.
this is one of his best games for sure. I mean, he's doing more than just being like the cleanup 80 carry. He was kind of branded as back on Fnatic, because he was honestly super aggressive in fights. Like, he was the guy jumping forward as well, slowing down people and killing them.
Yeah, let's take a look if he also made it into our list of OP players. Let's take a look at 5 players that really
Who knows?
brought their A game to the stage this week. And the first player is Cabochard from Vitality.
The man bringing Graves to the top lane in Europe. Honestly, almost had a bit of an easy day on Graves. He wasn't really pressured too much. He got to just push his lanes. But in team fights, he had massive impact, especially in that last game we saw today. Getting back against Origin, and that's a lot about Cabochard in fights.
So deceptively tanky, you know. So he's down.
Secondly, OP player, it is Steelback.
Whoa!
Great job, yeah. Say something.
Yeah, we've said actually pretty much everything we've had to say about Steelback,
Yeah,
so I'll just end up
absolutely.
repeating it. He played very well, got unlucked together with Hylissang. Got a little lucky on this exact fight because he should have actually died there, but that's aside.
Finding the negative.
Actually, yeah, that's actually sad that I find the negative there. Good flash here from Fox though. I know we're talking about Steelback, but we talked about it. I talked to Fox, like, that was a nice W flash. He's like, yeah, that's the only thing I did this game. For the rest of my team carried. So Steelback carried Fox.
Well, talking about other players that maybe unexpectedly find themselves on the OP list if we look at last year. Spratel, ex-Promiscu, Elements going 2-0 in this week, and maybe a lot of being thrown in and having to engage, but very good performance on Alistar.
You played against him, Reckless. What do you think?
No, we didn't play against them yet.
Wow.
Good job, Fisher.
So cute.
You know who he is.
I didn't mean now. I mean, like, overall, I assume you played against him.
I mean, as I said before, I think last year perhaps he had issues together with tabs. You know, sometimes you're not just on the same page, and then it's very hard to execute. But I feel like perhaps now with Mr. Ellis, they're complementing one another much better, and he's having an easier time.
Yep. Next OP is another person from the bottom lane, Sven. I mean,
That guy.
he did his damnedest to win that game today, but yeah, in the end the rest wasn't there. But I mean, I can't imagine him not being an OP every week. It's just a fantastic player.
I just hope we get to see the sidestep.
Yeah, the sidestep is like, that's instant OP5.
Yeah.
It's like, you know. That was
I asked him about that sidestep, if it was luck or it was pure prediction, and he did say that he did like to normally just juke back and forth, and it wasn't 100% planned. But then he kind of changed and said, no, it was of course planned, and it's because he could predict what was going on. The rest of his team said it was luck.
Yeah, I asked him and he said actually, yeah, you know he's going to town, so he took upwards. But in the end, G2 had nothing to say. Everybody forgot about Gray. Forgiven Gray, made it here in the OP5. Definitely played super well, 80 carry. He's back, barely dies. And Diffisho, comment on this guy.
I like Forgiven.
Me too.
You asked the Fisher when we have Reckless?
Yeah, I was about to say, Reckless, talk about
Reckless
this 80
Tigers.
carry.
No, I think in general there's a lot of good AD carries right now. And not just Forgiven, even though Forgiven is one of a kind, I would definitely say that
You're gonna add in your own name here, and this Reckless guy is like,
No, that'll come later.
Okay.
I think it's really interesting to see so many AD carries stepping up, because maybe that's just the name of the game right now, that with the patches coming in, the AD carries have more of an impact and the players are stepping up.
Maybe, I would say definitely so. Because also for our choice for MVP, we had to go to an AD carry, and for us it was Elements' Mr. Rawls, racking up 15 kills, 48% kill share, and the most fantasy points in the league to cement himself as our Week 2 MVP. And I especially think this is important because this is someone we highlighted at the beginning of the season as someone who never steps up and carries completely alone, but it's working within the framework of the Elements team right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time Rallis had to be the main carry over multiple games. And he's been doing well. I think, especially him and Sprattle, those two guys, we see it also in this replay here, like that's great synergy, knocking him into Sapphire, get another kill, and Rallis just been playing super, super well.
Also, there's no ego in that Elements roster whatsoever. Like, they all seem like very calm players, you know, that have been branded as, you know, maybe not so great, so they're all just hungry to prove themselves. And I think that works, and I think Rawls is just a super calm player that fits in that environment pretty well.
Yeah. If Elements wins the split, are you going back?
No. I'm
No,
here for
no, that was...
Oh.
okay. Are we going back?
Are we going... No, we tried it once. I would though.
Yeah, same.
Well, see, there we go.
Well, look at that.
Wow, okay.
Time for some discussion behind the scenes. Well, anyway, we will be back next week, of course, next Thursday at 6 p.m. Central European Time. That is 9 a.m. Pacific. Giants versus Splice. G2 versus Fnatic. H2K versus Vitality. After G2's draft today, I mean, I don't think you guys are going to take too much conclusions from that because you said that they are still a pretty strong team.
Yeah, I would say definitely the other 3 games are the ones to look at. I think they had a pretty decisive style going into every game. So it's definitely something we're going to have to look at because I don't think they'll be an easy team to beat whatsoever.
No team in Europe is perfect. G2 is very, very good among some of the other teams we have up in the top now. Elements and Unicorns are taking on each other, and it's both 3-1. I mean, I want to say Unicorns are going to be favorites, but then again, Elements have just been doing really well, so we're going to have to see.
Something else that isn't perfect is NA. They also have a lot of action. The North American LCS returns tomorrow at 9 p.m. Central European Time, noon Pacific, with Team Impulse versus Cloud9 and a star-studded matchup between TSM and Immortals. Oh, color me excited. Then on Sunday, it's going to be the North American Game of the Week between Immortals and Energy as well. Ooh, TSM Immortals.
It's a problem because in fantasy, you kind of want to start TSM and Immortal players, but when they play each other, you don't really know what's going to happen. You know, Doublelift didn't give me... Okay, actually, he gave me quite a lot of points in the end. But anyway,
I think that's it. Well, thank you guys so much for the banter. Thank you so much for joining us, Reckless.
Thank you,
That's fun. There go the pen. Time to wrap things up here in Europe. It's time to call a night. From everyone here covering the European LCS, thank you so much for being a part of Week 2, and we'll see you right back here next Thursday.
Noise.
All right. Hello everybody, I'm Quickshot, joined here by Crepo and Deficio. It's now time to load up for our game of the week. Looks for the stun, Newtek does not find the charm, and he's forced to dash away, and the Sonic Wave snipe!
Stay in the ult. I can charge flash Kindred. Okay.
Q1. Nice. Vitality, strike down Origin!
Tipping behind. Going behind.
Nice! And the Death Sentence finds Audrey. He's flashed away, but he will not survive. Elements strangle Giants off the rift. Keeper's Verdict will knock him up into the air, and Reckless will find himself a double kill. Steelback wants to get a kill, but Featherman going golden.
Nice. Okay. Corki. Nice one. Good job, man.
As the minions continue to stream in. Oh no, hook off Featherman! Featherman is fatal, and he's down! Steelback continues to destroy Fnatic! The magic is still real!
Can I chillax with my foot up here, by the way? No? I can't.
Did you just really do that?
It's like scrims, man. I'm new in LCS. Yeah, we should play like Genji. You know how Genji used to play games? Like this? No, he would play like this. That's kind of how I play.
He gets immediately jumped down, but a big guard from Freddy and Betsy around the side can't finish the job. Edward's gonna get taken out. Splice will come up with the victory right here. The knockup from Trick, and there now Ryu and Vander falling oh so low. Trick in the middle, but shut down courtesy of Dankos. Vander might follow, but he's a big cow, and he keeps himself alive. Ryu might want to back away, but he goes right back. He goes in. Zanyas, he gets Emperor locked up, and he's trying He might just do